trust is extremely critical in the whole coaching process, because people learn the most when they make themselves vulnerable. So you really can't be asking a teacher to be vulnerable in the classroom in front of an observer unless you've created that trust. The statement that I lay out for folks as the initial underpinning for trust is say what you're going to do and then do it. So if you're looking at that through the eyes of an administrator, it says as an administrator, if I'm coming into the classroom to do an evaluation of the teacher is clear that my purpose for being there is one of evaluation. Versus if I'm coming in to coach, it's clear to the teacher that I have that capability of separating myself from that evaluator's hat and wearing strictly the coach's hat. Now, the instructional coach has the advantage of, in most cases, not having any evaluative role. So that can make it a little bit easier for the instructional coach. The tough part for the instructional coach, and why I use that phrase, say what you're going to do and then do it, is that in a pre-conference, you've in effect reached an agreement as to what the focus of the coaching observation will be based upon. And so the trust is built by the teacher knowing when the coach comes in, if we've agreed to that narrow focus, the coach's attention is going to be on that narrow focus. And the coach isn't going to be looking somewhere else and finding something else to bring into the conversation. In the whole school change process that I work with, and that's whether I'm working with a school looking at school improvement, whether I'm working with coaches and administrators as they work with teachers, whether I'm personally working with a teacher in a classroom, it all has to be built from a backwards planning process that is based on student achievement. So the thing that brings us all to the same focus here is identifying what is student achievement. And the bottom line, if you're working in a district as an instructional coach, you've got to be able to draw that line from the work that you're doing day in and day out to improvement in student achievement. If you're asking a teacher to implement a change in instructional strategy, that change needs to be able to be documented in student achievement. Now, I just want to caution that doesn't necessarily equate to it has to show up as an increase in student reading scores or math scores. There's lots of other components to student achievement. So if you were to decide that persevering on a difficult math problem is a step towards greater student achievement, then the fact that I can measure the time that students will persevere, the time that students are willing to, the first 2 attempts I made at solving this problem didn't work and I went back and tried another way. That kind of change in student is what documents the work that everyone's doing. One of the first roles for a person to play when they step into a coaching position is one of modeling what it means to be coached. So very often when I'm working with a district, we will start initially having administrators observe and coach the instructional coach, and then have the instructional coach observe and coach the administrator. Now, in some cases, that may mean the administrator actually goes into a classroom and works with kids and gets coached on it. Or in many cases, it may mean that the administrator is willing to be coached on how they interact at a faculty meeting, or how they worked with a professional learning community. With instructional coaches, districts that I'm working with on an extended program, frequently when I return after initial trainings, I'll spend some time observing the coach coaching a teacher and then coach the coach. And I'll build in the sessions for the instructional coaches to begin to do that with each other. Example, one district that I'm have worked with extensively last year and will be going back this year, we actually take a time when 4 or 5 principals go to one building. We go in and all of us go in and observe the same learning activity with the teacher and students. We come out of there and do our own analysis. What did we see? We then discuss how you would conference with a teacher on what we had observed. And then frequently we'll get the teacher to come out, and I or one of the people I'm practicing with will coach that teacher in front of the group. And then frequently use the teacher and the group to give feedback to the person. And when I mentioned that vulnerability is critical, that's the powerful spot, when that person who's in the coaching role will put themselves into that vulnerable, growth-oriented role.